Here I am, being at your door. Send me your mercy, send me your peace, or I am lost for sure. Oh Lord, here I am, yearning for your cure. This humble servant will be diverted from you no more.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in our series, The Best of Tawheed, in which we are looking at the best evidences found in the Quran and the Sunnah and the explanations of the companions of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, as well as in the rulings of the early scholars, which clarify for us the parameters of Tawheed. What constitutes Tawheed and what does not? What makes the monotheism of Islam so distinctly different from what may be called also monotheism in Christianity and Judaism? We were looking in the previous episode at one of the ways by which monotheism in Islam is violated, and that is by sacrificing an animal to other than Allah. We said this is shirk and is a major sin. In the hadith which the Prophet ﷺ made that statement, there were other references which we also were looking at, and among those references was the reference to Allah's curse being on the innovator. Just for us to remember the hadith, it was that of Ali ibn Abi Talib, who stated that Allah's messenger informed him about 4 statements. Allah's curse is upon the one who sacrifices to anything other than Allah. That is the major evidence against sacrificing of anything to other than Allah. Allah's curse is also on the one who curses his own parents. We looked into that and said that most people will not curse their own parents, although we do have some people who do. But the other way that most people end up cursing their parents is by cursing other people's parents. In order to put another person down, one may say ill about their parents, and then that person now says ill about your own parents. So in that way, what has happened in the case of your parents being cursed by others was caused by you cursing other people's parents. The third category was that Allah's curse was upon one who shelters an innovator. And it was on that point that we closed previous episode as to the issue of innovation. Innovation being the addition in the religion after its completion. That addition, regardless of what one's intention may have been, would be considered heretical, at variance with the Sunnah. And it is that in which one seeks the pleasure of Allah in doing so. But it has no authentic legal sanction in fact or by implication. So such an act of innovation in the religion is itself evil, it is wrong, it is displeasing to Allah. And such a person who is engaged in this, if they reach the level where they are hunted down by the society for the evil that they have introduced, then for you as a private citizen to harbor a criminal who is a known innovator, you are cursed by Allah. because you're harboring that known, protecting his innovation or her innovation, that it would continue to be alive in the society. Even if you stopped it externally, in the heart of that innovator, it's still alive, and he or she would continue to promote it. Now, the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, spoke very strongly against innovation in a number of hadiths. Among them is a hadith narrated by Yahya ibn Abi Musa, which he heard from the companion Irbad ibn Sariya, that one day Allah's Messenger stood up among them and delivered a profoundly effective sermon which softened their hearts and filled their eyes with tears. Someone asked, "O Messenger of Allah, you have delivered to us a farewell sermon, so enjoin upon us some duty." He went on to say, "Hold firmly to God consciousness, taqwa, listening and obedience even to an Ethiopian slave. You will see after me great controversy, so hold firmly to my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs. Bite onto it with your molars and beware of the innovated affairs. For every religious innovation is misguidance. Every religious innovation is misguidance." In another hadith narrated by Aisha, she quoted the Prophet ﷺ as saying, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad." Whoever innovates in our affairs something without authority, it will be rejected. So these strong words from the Prophet ﷺ warning against innovation, makes a thinking Muslim, a practicing Muslim, careful to avoid any form of change in the religious teachings. Because Allah revealed a verse, one among the last verses that were revealed during the Hajj, the final Hajj of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, "Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum." Today I have completed for you your religion. So when a person innovates, brings something new into the practice of the religion, what is he saying relative to that verse? He's saying that verse isn't true. But Allah said He completed the religion, but now you, 1,000 years later, are coming along with something to add, as if the verse was not correct. This is why the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, had spoken very strongly against innovation. However, some people might say, but some innovation took place in the time of the Prophet. May God's peace and blessing be upon him. We have a well-known hadith narrated by Abu Huraira, in which he quoted Allah's Messenger as saying, "Bilal, tell me about a deed you have done in Islam, from which you hope to have the most benefit. For tonight I heard the sound of your sandals in front of me in paradise." Bilal replied, "I haven't done any deed which I hoped would be of special benefit, except that whenever I made ritual purification, that's wudu, during the day or night, I pray as many units as Allah wills." The Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, approved this practice of Bilal. And it came to be known, as the Sunnah prayers for wudu. That after doing wudu, after every time one does the ritual purification, whenever it breaks, that one does 2 units of prayer or more after doing wudu. So they said, there is a change, there is innovation. But this is not after the verse has been revealed. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ approved of what Bilal did. So now, anything else that people are doing afterwards, where is the approval of the Prophet? Can we compare that? May God's peace and blessing be upon him. Can we compare what he approved to what he has not approved? Of course not. That's a false understanding. They're not the same at all. So when we look at innovation, the forms are of two types. Actual innovation, which may be called bid'ah asliya, and additional innovation, which may be called bid'ah idafiya. An actual innovation in religion is where one introduces into the religion, or one maintains practices which are not from the religion at all. For example, in some countries, among Muslims, you will find that in order to indicate that somebody has died, they may use a flag, usually a white flag, which will be put, hanging, put outside of their home, on a pole or whatever, which is from India. It is from Hindu practice to indicate death in the family. Or a particular necklace called a tali, which is used by the Hindus, on a chain. This is used in marriage practices amongst Muslims in India and Sri Lanka. And also the dowry, which is done from Islamic perspective. The man is supposed to give a certain amount of money to the woman, whatever she requests, as a symbol of his willingness to look after her. This is called a dowry or mahar in Islam. Well, in Hindu practice, it's the other way around. It is the female, her family really, who has to give to the male. And this again has no place in Islam. And this is considered an innovation. We're going to look further into this issue of innovation after the break. We're going to take a break here now, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back from the break. Assalamu alaikum. Prior to the break, we were looking at the two types of innovation, two forms that they take. Bid'ah, which we said was cursed by Allah. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warned us against in order to protect the religion from change. We said there was one type which is known as bid'ah asliya, or an actual innovation, something which is innovated right from its root. It has no place in Islam at all. Something taken from another religion altogether. The other is what they call bid'ah idafiya, or an additional innovation, which has some roots in Islam, but it is doing something out of its place. Something which is in a part of Islam, in some of the practices, but done out of its place. For example, congregational dua after regular prayers. The idea of congregational dua is legitimate, but when people do it after every obligatory prayer, it's a standard, where they feel that it has to be done. If it's not done, something is wrong. Then this becomes a bid'ah idafiyya. Or in some cases, the practice after the prayer is over, where some people feel they have to shake the hand of the person to the right, shake the hand of the person to the left, like it's something which now has become a part of the prayer for them. The prayer is like incomplete unless you do that. This practice, when it comes on that level, becomes bid'ah idafiyya. Though, if a person, after the prayer, they have friends over this side and they shake their hands, and they shake the hands of the person on the left side, no problem. But when it becomes a ritual part, becomes like a part of the prayer, completion of the prayer. You will see some people who come from this area with this tradition, they will sit and wait, for a person who's making dua until he finishes so that they can shake his hand. They can't leave until it's done. So that type of innovation, really, we can look at it as something where there is a general text, either from the Quran and the Sunnah, which addresses some particular acts, but people take it out of context and use it, in a way which was not done by the companions of the Prophet. May God's peace and blessing be upon him. So its origins might be correct, but its use in that way is incorrect. For example, it was a practice to greet by shaking hands, and the Prophet ﷺ did encourage us to give salams or to send prayers of peace on the Prophet, from time to time. However, the norm when we shake hands is to say, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, we shake hands. In some countries, like Sri Lanka, the practice is when people take each other's hands actually to greet each other, they say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, which is off. It is not in keeping with the correct practice here. We've taken something out of place. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad is, may Allah's peace and blessings be on Muhammad. Make a dua for Prophet Muhammad. So you're making a dua as you're shaking the person's hands. This is out of place. It's something taking it out of the context, putting it in another context altogether. So this is an example of bid'ah idafiyya. So when we look at the types of bid'ah idafiyya, we can also include with it examples where people now put gravestones, for example, where the Prophet ﷺ had forbidden to put structures over the grave. People now make gravestones with the name of the dead person and all this, when they were born and that. This is from Christian and other traditions. Also, dhikr beads. This was from the rosary of the Catholics. They had rosaries. Muslims have adopted it as a means of remembering Allah. So this is an example also of additional bid'ah idafiyya. Now, in terms of the causes, where do these things come from? Part of it comes from speaking about the religion without knowledge, where a person talks, promotes, etc., things about the religion where they don't have knowledge. So they may say things, people take it because this person is respected, take it as fact, and then people start practicing it. It's handed down generation after generation till it becomes a standard practice. So it may start off with people speaking out of ignorance about the religion. The second source of innovation could be also ignorance of the Arabic language, where people will take statements which are in Arabic, not understanding the meaning, and thereby use it in places other than it should be used. Like the example of the person shaking hands and sending blessings, prayers of peace on the Prophet. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. Because had they known what they're saying, they would realize that this was out of context. So understanding Arabic properly. The third source is also ignorance of the Sunnah, where people don't have enough knowledge to distinguish between authentic narrations and inauthentic narrations, because there are fabrications which are circulating in the Muslim Ummah. They've been around for a long time, and they remain in oral tradition because you can't find them written in any of the books of hadith, but people believe in them and they continue to circulate them. Like the belief, for example, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was created from the light of Allah. So they have this thing called the Muhammadan Nur, Nur Muhammadi. This is a fabrication. The hadiths concerning it are all fabricated. There's no such thing. And they add to it a fabricated hadith in which they said that Allah said, were it not for you, Muhammad, I would not have created the world. That the whole world was created to please Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is nonsense. This is not the case at all. And the fact that it is not the case doesn't, lower the Prophet in his status. He is still the last and the greatest of the prophets of Allah. Also, innovations can be the result of ignorance of the importance of the Sunnah to Islamic law. And it could be a result of following desires. Where, for example, the Prophet ﷺ had commanded that we should grow our beards. Some people feel they look younger if they shave their beard. So they will shave the beards in order to try to look younger, but they're going against the command of the Prophet ﷺ. And this style of shaved beards, has become an innovation widespread amongst the Ummah. Usually it came off the colonial powers' rule, where the colonial powers from Europe and Germany, etc., many of their leaders and administrators were clean shaven. Maybe they kept big mustaches, but they shaved their faces. So Muslims in ignorance had also adopted this false sunnah. Another source of innovation is that of submitting to other than the Prophet ﷺ's command. And when the proofs of what the deen actually says is brought to them, they reject it because they're caught up in their traditions. Now, the last statement, which was made in that original narration from Ali ibn Abi Talib, and we should note that this statement exposes the falsehood of those who claim that Ali had secrets from the Prophet ﷺ. There are those who claim that Ali was given special teachings that only he knew, but in fact he passed on whatever he learned. Now, the last statement of Allah's curse was that Allah's curse is upon one who alters the landmarks. And what does that refer to? That refers to the changing of property boundaries, etc., in order to take the rights of others. There's clear, defined beginning of your property, ending of your property. Your neighbor knows this and you know it. The neighbor dies, children are not sure about it, you expand your boundaries into taking over some of the property of others. This is, of course, something forbidden in Islam. Prophet ﷺ had said, whoever snatches a palm's width of land wrongfully, Allah will put it around his neck on the day of resurrection from 7 earths, not just the earth that you stole, but from 7 earths. So this is also prohibited in Islam, to change the landmarkings in order to steal the property of others. With that, dear viewers, we'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our episode from the series, The Best of Tawheed. And we hope to see you in the coming episodes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Here I am, pleading at your door. Send me your mercy, send me your peace, or I am lost for sure.